This is the Feeding the Future Alternative Foods poster task. So the concept behind it is that the food industry puts a huge amount of pressure on the environment, from vast emissions, pollution, land clearing, and ethical issues involved in the meat industry, to the unsustainable practices of farming crops in unsuitable climates or using damaging methods. Worldwide, we consume 315 million tonnes of meat per year. It is estimated by 2030 that number will increase by 44% to up to 453 million tonnes of meat per year. This quantity of meat alone requires huge volumes of feed for the animals, large areas of space, and vast quantities of water. Currently, to produce 1 kilogram of meat requires between 5,000 and 20,000 litres of water, compared with 1 kilogram of wheat needing 500 to 4,000 litres of water. This means that a Big Mac, which contains about 90 grams of beef, requires 450 to 1,800 litres of water in order to be made. Looking at the table below, you can see some of the emissions produced by various food sources. So beef is significantly worse than any others, both with methane production, land use, processing, transport's not too bad in comparison, and the retail. Then we go down to things like lamb, cheese, beef in terms of dairy, chocolate, coffee, prawns. So all of these are quite significant contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. There are, all the way down here, we've got things like nuts, citrus fruits, pears, peas, etc. These are all far less impacting than the beef industry, for example. So the task for this assignment is to select a common food item. So this could be a specific thing, it could be a type, so something like all dairy food, could be all meat, all grains, or it could be a very specific thing. So it could be like beef, or it could be like cheese, something like that. Then I want you to research an alternative food option to that food that is more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. So you might, for example, choose meat, and then you may say, all right, well, what are some more environmentally friendly or more sustainable food options to replace meat with? You need to provide details on what nutrients, such as protein, carbohydrates, and fats, the original food item has, and compare it to your alternative. So somewhere in this poster you should have those nutritional values. Discuss how your alternative food is made, and outline why it is better for the environment and maybe even your health if that's the case. This could include things like the land use and comparing that, the water consumption, the emissions, the wastage, the resources and infrastructure required for that food. Explain why your food is more sustainable for a growing population. Explain what scientific disciplines are involved. So for example, zoology, botany, ecology, soil science, chemistry, computer science, physics or engineering. Talk about who of these scientists or science backgrounds would be involved and collaborating together in order to produce this food. And provide a basic meal option for that item, such as a basic recipe in order to make something with it. So you might come up with something like gum leaf stew. Hopefully it's going to be better than that and far more nutritious and delicious, but that's an example of something that you might use. Every team member will have an A4 page, and combined, the team's posters should seamlessly join to look like one poster, rather than just a bunch of pages stuck together. So you would want to do this through things like borders. You might have titles that link across pages. Someone might have an image that's distributed across a couple of pages. But the catch is that you cannot see each other's work prior to this time. So you can digitally print this time. I'll allow that. You can print things off because I want this to be a very visually appealing, professional looking poster. I'm using this as an advertisement that we can put around the school, we can put out in public to help educate people on what they could be eating and why it's better if they do. But it's important to note that you should never see your partner's pages until the time you hand it up. So you can communicate remotely through a team or Google Hangouts or anything like that, but you would need to try and communicate information, like give them measurements and things of where you're going to put stuff. One person could print off an image and give it to another person to stick in a certain place, things like that, but you should never see each other's pages. So the poster must be concise and contain sections of words. So I've written huge sections of words. It doesn't need to be huge, but it must contain sections of words. It must be visually appealing. should be eye-catching, and it should encourage people to read it. So we don't want this huge thing with lots and lots of writing that's really hard to see from a distance. It should be visually appealing and make you want to come up and read it. It should join seamlessly to look like it was made as one poster, not 4 separate sections when we put it together. It should be persuasive, and it should be appealing to encourage the reader to at least try or want to convert to your food alternative. It should also be scientific and factual with no personal opinion. So you shouldn't talk about, I think you should do this, or we believe. It should be completely neutral, no statements like that, and it should just be scientific. So there's a little checklist here to help you figure out what you want to do and how you're going to do it. Make sure you've got all of these things. It's a bit of a step-by-step. And this is the rubric. So this is what's being marked. So your communication of knowledge, how much science concepts is in it. So as long as you basically meet these criterias, that's going to be fine. And this interaction between science and society is embedded within this, talking about which disciplines are involved. So this is the Feeding the Future task.